Good evening, Whalawhalahiatu, and welcome to this bulletin of BCN News. Leading our news tonight, Travel Advisory number 9 from the Niue government was issued yesterday, advising that Cabinet this week had approved the increase in the number of passengers coming into Niue every fortnight. I spoke to Premier Honourable Dalton Tangilangi after his Cabinet meeting on Tuesday this week.
So basically it's for those that wanted to come for the festive season, because as you all know, they're all vetted and they're all abide by some of the restrictions. So that's the only, but we have agreed today that the number now, it's capped at 30. So we more or less revert back to 26. The original number, well, we thought we'd just round it off to 30, huh? Because the only reason we went down to 15 because of the community transmission in Auckland. So we thought we'll lower the number. But now, as of today, until the end of December, it's set at 30. So that also gives New Zealand that understanding that there is the ceiling of numbers that can travel here until the end of December.
Home quarantine is also available as an option for all passengers arriving on flights in November, with a possibility of an extension. The advisory stated that the passenger flights every 2 weeks will continue until the end of December this year. And staying with travel and quarantine matters, the Niue Police Department this week investigated an alleged breach at the quarantine facility at Home Office, but found that there was no breach. Here's more on that story.
We were alerted to the potential breach of quarantine when we started receiving screenshots of posts from Facebook saying that somebody had observed multiple people outside the quarantine area.
The Facebook post stated that people from within quarantine were outside the fence and were visiting with a friend.
So we did a complete investigation like we would into any other matter. We spoke to all of the witnesses, all of the people that were in quarantine that were alleged to be part of the breach. We spoke to the police officer who was working the quarantine location that night. We spoke to the people who were the alleged visitors. And then we also spoke to the person who made the post on Facebook. On top of that, we have very good security footage in the facility, so we were able to go back and review footage from the security cameras to see exactly what happened. And we were able to conclusively determine that nobody left the area. The report was made by somebody driving by, so it wasn't somebody who stopped off at the location to see what was going on. And I think that the person probably believed that what they saw was what they reported on Facebook. But we were able to confirm the times and everything with that person. We were able to see the person's car go by in the security cameras. The quarantine location has 2 sets of fences they're set 3 meters apart in order to make sure that the social distancing occurs. And clearly the people who were in quarantine remained on their side of the fence, and the people that were outside of quarantine remained on their side of the fence. So there was no breach in the quarantine.
Niue Police, though, encourage people to report any violations of quarantine to them immediately and not to post on social media first. This will allow the police to investigate any alleged breaches, as these protocols are important to protect Niue from COVID-19.
We would ask, though, that when people see a breach of quarantine or what they believe to be a breach of quarantine, not to post it on Facebook the next day, but to call us right away. There are health implications, there are other COVID protocols that are in place that we need to take if there is a breach of quarantine, including possible quarantine of the people who they came into close contact with, so that to make sure there's no more close contacts should somebody inside the quarantine location be sick. So if people do see a violation, please don't post it on social media first. If you come report it to us, let us do an investigation, but let us do our job to make sure that people are safe, and to make sure that our protocols are being followed as well.
On the appointment of the government's internal auditor, the Public Service Commission has decided to invoke the sitting of its appeals committee and inviting permanent public servants who may have had concerns about this appointment to file your appeal. The Appeals Committee will require these appeals by November 17th. The Public Service Commission is allowing 14 days for permanent public servants to lodge their appeal on the Commission's appointment of the Internal Auditor. The Appeals Committee is made up of 4 members appointed by Cabinet. However, it does not include a member of the Public Service Association or PSA because the PSA has not been active for the last 10 years. The media statement from the Commission earlier this week states that in accordance with the Public Service Regulations 2004 and pursuant to Regulations 78 and 79, only permanent employees of the public service may file an appeal. However, the Commission has also indicated that they will be looking at reviewing these regulations. The Commission's decision to appoint former Member of Parliament for Mutalau, Maureen Milikitama, to the position of Internal Auditor in September raised concerns with some members of the public, including Common Role member Terry Coe. He said that all positions of the public service should be advertised in order to find the right person. In response to questions from BCN News this week, the Secretariat of the Commission in a statement revealed the salary range of the Internal Auditor is from $34,000 to $40,000 per annum. All appeals should be filed by November 17th. Eradicating or even containing the spread of invasive species from our environment is one of the Environment Department's major projects. BCN News joined the small team at Hakupu today to find out more about what they're doing to rid our island of these invasive species. The Environment Department's Biodiversity and Conservation Officer, Hagit Tongatule, and his small team are trying to tackle what has become a mammoth task of eradicating invasive plants from our environment. Hagit told us that the Environment Department was able to secure funding under a regional invasive species project, but they do need help from the community in order to successfully contain and eradicate these invasive plants.
We're trying to identify some of the priority invasive species found here on Niue, and we're trying to see what kind of control methods we can utilize to either eradicate or control some of these invasive species.
According to Hagit, there are many invasive plants here in Niue, but top of the list will have to be the taro leaf vine and the Honolulu rose. The taro leaf vine has spread all over the island, and today we saw how prevalent this invasive plant is on the east coast of the island in the village of Hakupu.
As part of the awareness campaign in the past, we went around with the Reach to Reef project, had a few discussions with all the village communities here in Niue, and what we wanted from each of the village communities was that we to work together with the department to control or eradicate some of these invasive species in the villages, because as we all know, in the past a lot of the work has been carried out by government, but as we all know, there can only be there's only enough resources the government can actually provide to properly and effectively manage some of these invasive species. So what we really want from the communities is to actually take control themselves, and then government can come on top and assist them in ways of providing funds, providing them with the technical advice, especially in terms of what chemicals to use to spray some of these weeds, and the proper way of actually controlling these invasives.
The Hakupu Men's Council is one of the first community groups to answer the call from the Environment Department to help eradicate the taro leaf vine. The group is trying to contain the spread of the taro leaf vine in their village and to stop it from entering their natural heritage at Huvalu Forest. BCN News spoke to Fapoya Kesi of the Hakupu Men's Council, who told us that this invasive plant has grown so far into the bush and around the village and also around the island.
It's gone, it's too far. We can't eradicate all this taro vine around Niue, but we are trying our best to contain and control this invasive species within our own village boundaries. And also, we are very concerned about taro vine going up to Huvalu Forest and heading up to our town. Those two areas are our natural heritage, and we don't want taro vine to go there.
While it's uncertain when this taro leaf vine was first introduced into Niue, the officials from the Environment Department are quite certain that it was introduced as an ornamental plant by unsuspecting ladies a long while ago, their intention to beautify their gardens and their homes.
Unfortunately, they have escaped from the gardens, especially in terms of the ladies removing them from the gardens and just disposing them in the environment, and not like properly burning them or putting them somewhere that they won't spread to the environment. And now we have a huge problem where some of these plants are actually just getting out of control.
It's a big job trying to eradicate an invasive species, so the Hakupu Men's Group is asking other villages to organize your groups and contact the Niue Environment Department to join the national effort to contain the spread and eradicate invasive species from our villages and from the island.
Our group where, through the Men's Council, we are taking the lead. Please try to follow suit and try as much as we can to help the Environment Department and R2R to not only to kill the taro vine, but also other invasive species that you have or identify within your village boundaries, more so at the bush.
The Environment Department is asking the community to work together because this invasive species, like this taro leaf vine, is a major problem, and it requires community effort to rid the island of this invasive plant. It's been some time since the Niue Rugby League's team has played a major game, but tomorrow they will be playing Tonga in the curtain raiser before the big game between New Zealand's Kiwi Ferns taking on Samoa's Whetu Samoa game at Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland. I spoke to coach Phil Gordon via Zoom to find out what the mood of the team is leading up to the big game.
It's been a very energetic, enthusiastic mood within the group of girls that we've got, that we've gathered. We have went through some of our paces today and had a really good session, really good focus, enthusiasm from all the ladies involved. Looking to have another couple of sessions tomorrow just to make sure that we can be as prepared as we can be with the time frame that we've been allowed to prepare for our test match against Tonga on Saturday. But very happy with the mindset, the attitude and the focus of the ladies. My biggest hope is that we are inundated. We are overcrowded with our people from Niue coming to support our ladies who understand the privilege and honour it is to represent such a proud country and a proud nation. We are not planning to take any backward steps during the game. We are aspiring to be the very best league players we can be on that day. And we're very aware of what this means to our people from Niue and moving our game forward in regards to the women's space for our game. And we would love to see an absolute wave of blue and yellow, blue and gold to be right behind our backs on Saturday.
And all the best to the team. TV Niue will be showing these games live tomorrow from 2 p.m. You can also post your messages to their Facebook page, Auckland Niue Rugby League. But that's our news for tonight. You have a lovely weekend. Good night.